You are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We are back. It is The Issue. It is Thursday, April 13th, and we have another episode here for you today. A really good one. We got a guest coming in, Mike Nicastro, today. So you're not going to be disappointed. We're going to have a lot of football to talk. Some Steelers football. We're going to talk a little bit of baseball too. Up, down, sideways. At the end of the second segment there. Only going to be 2 segments today because when you have the amount of content that we do this week, and especially the quality of it with a guest like Mike Nicastro,
dense episode.
It's going to be pretty packed. So, 2-segment show today.
Mock draft next week. So it's going to be a hefty one next week.
Yeah.
Kind of gearing up for the mock draft to be released next week.
So. A lot to look forward to.
A lot
to look forward to for sure. We're going to start the show with Tim's rant. Odell,
Ravens, what's it mean for Lamar?
It's going to be interesting.
Do I like the move? We'll see.
How does it shape the team? NFC or AFC North changing up a little bit there. We're gonna have hits and misses to finish the first segment, and then in the second segment, that's when we will have, of course, Mike Nicastro, and like I said, finish it up with up, down, sideways. But you can watch us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Prime Video. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Amazon Music. So however you got here today, we thank you for being here. And like Tim said, you don't want to miss the mock draft next week. So go ahead, subscribe, like. Whatever you need to, so you can find us again next week when that releases, because it'll be very good and highly anticipated.
Social media, it'll be up there too, so you find all those in the description, link tree, all that good stuff. Of course, OBJ to the Ravens, 1 year worth up to $18 million. I think it was like 14 something guaranteed, almost 15 actually guaranteed for sure. To me, it feels a little bit desperate, I have to say. I'm going to be honest with you. Didn't play all last year, right? Sat out after the ACL injury in the Super Bowl. I'm not saying it would have been easy to come back, but it was like kind of odd how he sat out. He's coming back only if it's for the playoffs. And meanwhile, a bunch of teams that were very viable making playoff pushes that could have used a number 2, number 3 receiver said, no, we're good, right? Like, we're good. So it's weird circumstance about him not playing, right? So let's think about, what are the cardinal arguments against Lamar right now, why he hasn't gotten the deal that he thinks he deserves from the Ravens, or from anybody for that matter, but from the Ravens specifically? Number 1, durability. He's played 1 out of 11 January and December games in the last 2 years. That's a problem. When it matters most, he hasn't been there, so let's be real. That's an issue. Number 2, I would say the whole agent thing, it's just a little bit noisy, right? It's nothing overly problematic, but it's just noisy. Same thing with Odell. I'm not saying, and actually in the last couple stops he's been in, I have to say in Cleveland, he was not that bad. I'm not saying he was great for the locker room, but at the end of the day, I would say Baker, the whole Freddie Kitchens issue, the Browns organization as a whole were much more chaotic than OBJ. I don't think he added to it. But he doesn't help himself. He's a little bit noisy as well. Right, so Lamar's noisy, OBJ's noisy, right? Interesting. What's the third thing with Lamar? Too much money, right? A little bit too expensive given the other circumstances. You look at OBJ, the move to sign him goes against all 3 of those quote-unquote values set by the Ravens. They said durability. By us not giving Lamar that guaranteed salary, we value durability. Well, no, you don't. You just gave, $14.5 million guaranteed, up to 18 for a number 2 receiver that didn't even play last year? Huh. Clearly durability is not that important then. How about noise? Like I already said, OBJ in the locker room with, in New York wasn't very pretty. I'm not saying that he was the entire problem in Cleveland, but his dad releasing footage and talking a little stick on Baker, and with the Rams he was actually pretty good. So they're both a little bit noisy. And then finally, the money. $14.5 million. $14.5 million. That's a lot of money. And another move actually contradicts the third value that they've said as well. You just paid top dollar for a linebacker. So you're trying to tell Lamar, hey, we don't have the facilities to give you a fully guaranteed contract like that and still field a team around you. Well, you're You're saying you value like the money and a balance of salary cap, but you just overpaid for a linebacker and a number 2 aging, often hurt receiver who's a little bit noisy? It doesn't make a ton of sense to me at all. I mean, it feels directionless, but there's only one benefit to it. And Lamar Jackson told you straight up, if you've watched his social media, only thing that you need to worry about reporting-wise about anything regarding me is my social media and my Twitter. That's where you'll get the truth. Okay, well, his Instagram, he had him and OBJ FaceTiming. They looked pretty pumped to be boys. Looked pretty pumped to be teammates. That's the only thing this move does. It brings Lamar back to the table. That's it. Doesn't even guarantee a contract. It gets Lamar interested. Maybe makes a couple concessions. Maybe. No, I don't think he really should. I think somebody's going to give him closer to what he deserves, and I think the Ravens will. I don't think an aging number 2 receiver who's noisy and not super durable is gonna be a deal breaker or a deal maker for Lamar. But that's the only thing it does. It gives them a fighting chance to re-sign Lamar Jackson. The move itself, from a value standpoint, from a professional standpoint, from a money standpoint, it doesn't make a ton of sense whatsoever. Again, I said it feels directionless. It feels a little bit desperate. I don't like the move for Baltimore. I don't think it pans out. Maybe it brings Lamar back to the table. Maybe they get a contract done, but that is far from a guarantee. That's my thoughts on the situation. What do you think?
I'm right there with you. It's desperate, but to the max. You're thinking about, you're bringing a 31-year-old receiver. 31.
Is he 31? Yeah.
He's 31
I knew
years old.
I knew he was low 30s.
He is so far out of his prime, it's not even funny. And you're going to pay
4 years, 4 years.
But it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't align with anything like you're saying. So they want to save money. They don't want to pay all that guaranteed money to Lamar, but they're going to dish it out to a linebacker. They're going to throw it at OBJ. And if that is seriously the best offer that they can bring to Lamar, I don't know why he would even entertain that. Lamar, I feel like on the open market, sure, we don't have any like confirmed reports because he doesn't have an agent of anybody that he's really spoken to or talked with.
Right.
Which is weird, as we've alluded to many points in the last couple of weeks.
For sure.
But I just don't think that this solves anything. I would agree. This does not solve a single one of the Ravens' issues. The Ravens have a laundry list of things that if they fix, they could actually be a viable, like, Super Bowl contending team.
Number 1 is Lamar Jackson.
Number 1 is Lamar.
There's other things, though. And I would say...
And if it costs you...
What about the draft?
If it costs you this much money just to get Lamar back, he's not worth...
They're in the low 20s. Why wouldn't you just go draft a guy? You're going to overpay for OBJ? Jackson Smith and Jigba, I doubt he'll be around.
They're going to be...
You could go to Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers.
They're going to be bleeding money from the gills, though. Like...
I don't like it at all.
You can't just keep tossing that around. And... Like, you have to find somebody for that price that's going to add consistent value that's reliable, that can be counted on every single week of the season.
There's just better options in the market, to be quite frank.
There's better rookies coming out of the league.
I mean, D-Hop is actively getting shopped, and you go for OBJ for up to $18 million. D-Hop's only, what, 22, 23 million? I'm not saying that's not a lot, but compared, I'd pay the extra $5 million tomorrow. $6 million, whatever it is, extra.
I didn't think that's where the receiver market was today, but whoever see, that's why you get yourself an agent, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you go out, if Lamar Jackson, if you have stumbled across this video, that's why you go get an agent, because that's what happens. Your agent gets you a deal that you shouldn't even sniff.
I would agree.
OBJ's agent should get a little bit of a pay upgrade.
Upgrade. Yeah. I agree. A little pay raise for him. Let's go ahead and go to hits and misses because, we kind of deserve a pay raise as well. It's tough to find some misses this week, I must say that. So, all right, hits and misses here. All right, hit number 1 here. I said the Buccos wouldn't be world beaters, and they're not. They're not. But we said they'd be really damn competitive, and that they are. Walk off against the Astros, sweeping Boston in Boston. Took 2 of 3 from the White Sox at home, right? Yeah. So, I mean, they have been scrappy. They've been entertaining. Good for the Pirates. Good for the Pirate fans. Good for the organization. They haven't been interesting in the last, maybe almost decade.
In 2014, so about 9 years.
So they're finally interesting again, and it's good for Pirate baseball. It's good for the city. I love seeing it. Went to the home opener Friday.
How was that?
Are you kidding me? It was awesome.
What was that like with the Kutcher's return and everything?
Oh my god, it was awesome.
Big video tribute?
Huge. Well, the video tribute wasn't huge. The ovation was massive.
Okay.
Massive ovation. Mom sang the national anthem. Kutch's mom.
Right.
The video tribute was definitely pretty nice. But
so just from a pure stadium standpoint, we were there for Ben's last home game when he ran out on the field. If we're setting that at 10, of fan noise, of stadium level noise, where was Kutch's return at? Where does that land?
Oh well, I mean, in relation to the size of the ballpark, like a 7 maybe.
Okay.
But like in real just sound standards, like a 2. I mean Heinz Field just holds so many more people.
Right.
And in general, like the fans at a Steeler game and at football games in general, they're a little more oiled up per se,
Sure, yeah.
Right, they're drunker. Like, let's be real,
Yeah.
And so I would say that was like significantly louder. But again, for the size of the stadium, like a 6 or a 7, yeah. It was good. It was
big
good.
Excitement.
Yeah, for sure. It was the duration too that was impressive. Like a minute of just full standing up.
Sustained.
Yeah, sustained standing
wow.
up. Yeah, no, it was awesome. Miss number 1 here. We've said, and I've thought for the most part, that the Ravens historically have been a really well-run organization. Look, defense, offensive lines, run games, can win with multiple different quarterbacks. They don't even have to be great. Flacco, Dilfer, whatever the case may be. But they've been really noisy this past offseason. Like, just the Lamar situation, Harbaugh talking at the meetings. Like, every time they're in front of a mic, it's something noisy.
Yeah.
They go out and get OBJ. That's noisy, kind of desperate. They seem a little bit petty almost. Like, it's just the teams that are noisy, like last year, Arizona, you didn't stop talking about them in the offseason. They sucked. Like, it's just, you don't want to be noisy in the NFL. I haven't heard a lick from the Bengals. Not a thing over the offseason.
You heard anything from the Chiefs?
Nothing.
Just checking.
Nothing.
No?
No.
49ers?
Nothing.
No?
The 49ers, who have maybe the most in limbo quarterback situation, which, by the way, if you haven't noticed, is the most important position in all sports, and not a word.
And it's really off
Not a
for
word.
Baltimore, because usually Baltimore, as much as I don't like them just because they're a rival of the Steelers, we report fairly here. They've always been a really, really solid organization with like a
really
good
well-run
foundation.
100%.
And this year, I think we're starting to see some cracks. I think something in Baltimore is going to change before most people realize it's going to.
Yeah, no, I agree. Hit number 2 here. I never really bought into the Anthony Richardson going number 1 hype, or even really CJ Stroud. Maybe for a minute I was like, CJ's close because the accuracy, and I think he can move a little bit. Like we saw in the Georgia game was pretty impressive.
Richardson number 1's the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, but I mean, I said no doubt about it. Bryce Young's the most talented quarterback. He's who I would take number 1. Well, what do you know? He's now the number 1 betting favorite. Vegas gets it too. He's the betting favorite to go number 1 as of right now. Some people think Richardson will get his day in the sun there here in about a week or so as the betting number 1. I don't. I think Bryce Young stays it. He's easily the most talented quarterback in the draft, the most NFL ready.
Yeah.
Arguably the most accurate, the best off-script, the best pocket maneuver quarterback, which you don't have to be super mobile. You got to be able to maneuver the pocket, which he does better than anybody. So he's a clear number 1. Vegas finally gets it. That's a hit there.
If you haven't noticed, Vegas isn't really all that into losing money.
No, they don't like that.
They always tend to know Vegas knows.
Vegas knows. Vegas has their hand in it.
Yeah, when that starts to go that way, you start to... I mean, at that point, just follow the great minds in our betting capital of the world.
Couldn't agree more. Miss number 2 here. I said, I think we did a little. We didn't give our full predictions for the MLB season. We did a little MLB preseason stuff here, and I said I'll take the Red Sox as like a dark horse pick to win the AL East. They're not even all that good. I mean, they're just wildly average. They're just super average.
It doesn't look good.
And what's crazy for me is the amount of pieces that they've lost because they're not willing to pay top money, yet they're making like top 5 money in the league every year in profits or revenue or whatever. I just don't understand how in like a 2-3 year span you can let go of Xander Bogaerts, Mookie Betts, like just really high-end players. I just don't. I'm missing something.
They've developed Pittsburgh Pirates syndrome.
Yeah, it seems like they get good and they just ship the next person out. It doesn't make a ton of sense to me. I thought they'd be a lot better than they are now. I mean, the Buccos swept them in Boston, and I like the Pirates, but that's never a good sign if you're on the same level or worse than the Pirates.
Yeah.
All right, hit number 3 here. I had Izzy all the way. Stylebender was an absolute lock for me. What do you know?
That was awesome.
Knocks out Alex Pereira to reclaim his rightful throne atop the middleweight division. Hit him with the same combo
Slept him.
as he almost slept him with in the first round of the first. All right, we are back. Second segment, The Issue Sports, The Issue Podcast. Ooh, the 13th already of April.
Flying.
It is flying. It seems like just yesterday, opening day, what was that, like April 1st or 2nd, or maybe even March 31st, something like that.
March 31st was
whatever. Flying by. However you're joining us, we appreciate you doing so. Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon, YouTube, more than likely, actually.
Ton of different options.
We really appreciate you stopping by. Don't go anywhere. We'll have Mike Nicastro in about a minute here to talk a little bit about Steelers draft. Who does he like? Even talk a little bit about quarterback prospects. What he thinks the draft looks like for that. The O'Neal Cruz slide and the unfortunate injury. What his opinion is about that. I tend to think, tough baseball play, not really a great slide. Don't love that it happened, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. Yeah. So I don't know. We'll get his opinion on that too.
Tough to prevent things like that.
Yeah, it's like slide earlier, slide better. I'm sorry, like it's MLB. Like you got time to practice sliding. Like, go practice a couple slides.
Yeah, put some
is
time
it crazy?
into it. A little bit of time into it.
A little bit. Like that wasn't a good slide. Point blank.
No, it wasn't.
Point blank.
All right, yeah. Let's get Mike Nicastro on. It'll be good to get a third perspective on things. We've been talking a lot in these last couple of weeks about NFL free agency, Steelers stuff, MLB. So let's go ahead and get Mike on. Here he is.
All right, now on we got Mike Nicastro, big podcast guy, big blog guy around the Pittsburgh area. Local guy. He's got tons of connections, tons of, able to get a pulse on the Pittsburgh area. Everything draft, a little bit of O'Neal Cruz. We'll talk later. Mike, how you been? And tell us a little bit about your new podcast and kind of all the stuff that's going on there.
What's up, Tim and Luke? Always good to be joining you guys. That was an awesome intro. If you're giving me that intro, I'm joining every week from now on, man. I need that, honestly. I don't get complimented, but even my own co-hosts don't compliment me like that. But no, I'm good. I appreciate you guys having me on. Like I said, yeah, we still have yinzercrazy.com going strong. Obviously, a lot of awesome Pittsburgh-related content, as you can imagine. Certainly have a lot of great writers on that team covering the draft. We're even covering some Buccos, of course, some Penguins.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what that score is right now as they look to make their playoff push. But most importantly, the Steelers, of course, and hosting a podcast called The Sick Podcast, Steelers Crazy. You could find that over on YouTube. Subscribe to us. Follow at Sick Pod Steelers. Some really good guests we've had on so far this year. Draft prospects, some great minds, draft minds. So that's been very exciting for sure.
Perfect, man. Congratulations again. So, Mike, I don't want to spoil my own mock draft. I'm releasing it next week, about a week before the draft. Let people get a look at it. Let's kind of spoil yours a little bit, though. Who do you have the Steelers taking in their first round?
Oh, man.
I'm putting you on the spot there.
You caught me at a good time.
Yeah? You looking at mock draft stuff, too?
Or maybe a bad time. I don't know how to categorize this, and I'll tell you why. So I published the mock draft a week and a half ago. It was my 2.0.
Okay.
Only my second one that I have published. And obviously things are so fluid, and I seem to change my freaking mind way too often. But I said, you know what? I'm going to let this one marinate, and then I'm not going to put out a 3.0 until like right before the draft.
Yeah.
I compare it to like a March Madness bracket. Like if you fill it out early, you switch it 15 times, and then when you look back, you're like, why the heck did I switch that? Why am I overanalyzing this? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to get it right anyways.
Right.
So in that mock draft 2.0, I had the Steelers taking Deonte Banks at 17, the cornerback out of Maryland.
Okay.
Obviously a position of great need. I don't have to tell you guys or the fans that. But certainly maybe a little bit of an eyebrow raiser that it's not Joey Porter Jr., who in that mock exercise I had being drafted the pick before them to the Washington Commanders.
Right.
I think it's really important when you're doing mock drafts to go through all the teams as best as you can and try and pinpoint who you think they're going to take, Tim. only because if not, you're just kind of pulling names out of a hat.
100%.
So I went through that exercise, and Deontay Banks was my guy at 17. The Maryland connection makes sense. Mike Tomlin's son was there
Huge Maryland guy.
playing. Huge Maryland guy. It hasn't always worked out, that's for sure.
Sean
But
Davis and McFarland
Sean
and
Davis, Anthony, yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah,
I'm not sure who they hit on.
right.
But I think he's a really good player. When I watched him, I saw a guy with a serious, you know, dog attitude. He is tall. He's 6'2", I want to say. He's rangy. He had a hell of a combine. The guy showed out. I actually liked him better than Joey Porter Jr. when I watched him on tape.
That's interesting. Yeah,
And
I think Joey Porter's
yeah,
a little overvalued, a little bit overrated. I think he's going to be fine. I think he's a little bit overrated though.
yeah, you know what? I agree. I think there's more of a higher ceiling with Porter because
For
of his
sure.
length and
For
his
sure.
athleticism. His arms, man, his arm length is uncanny. It's a crazy
The
wingspan,
length
dude.
is nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But you put on the tape against Ohio State and those top flight receivers that he was covering from Garrett Wilson to 2 years ago, uh, Jackson Smith and Jigba when he was playing, and then just this past year with Marvin Harrison Jr., he got beat up. And those are the
Oh,
type
Yeah.
of talents he's going to be facing in the
yeah.
NFL. But you take that with a grain of salt because, like I said, he has a high ceiling. Now, when I turned on Deontay Banks, I expected to see a good corner. I saw a great corner. I really did. I saw a guy, like I said, that is not afraid to come up and tackle in the run game. He will knock you out.
Yeah.
I didn't see that from Porter when I watched him. Like I said, his intangibles are good. His measurables are solid. He fits the profile in terms of a Mike Tomlin draft pick. He also fits the profile in terms of obviously what they need. So in my last published mock draft, that's who I had the Steelers taking. I'm not going to spoil a 3.0 yet, but I'm
Fair.
starting to have second thoughts and maybe starting so I'll tease it. Maybe starting to stray back to offensive line at 17.
That
A
is
couple names that are sticking
yeah.
out: Broderick Jones, Darnell Wright.
Yeah.
I just for some reason have this nagging feeling the Steelers are going to end up addressing the O line and the D line with their first two picks. The trenches, man. I feel like that's just such an Andy Weidel thing to do. It's what he did in Philly, and so that's 17. I'll run through the rest really quickly. I had Mozzie Smith, Michigan D tackle at 32. Blake Freeland, huge offensive lineman from BYU at 49 there in the second round. And then I wanted to say Parker Washington, receiver from Penn State in the third
Would love
round.
that pick.
He's slot dude. He's a
Dude,
slot.
he's nice.
I mean,
He's so nice.
Great
a
late.
good player.
That'd be a
Yeah.
great late round pickup.
100%. He played like 80% of his snaps in the slot at Penn State. Productive, reliable. And I just think at the end of the day, he's going to be somebody that steps in right away and is able to catch, 50 passes and be a safety blanket for Kenny Pickett. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's kind of where I was at.
I love it. You mentioned the offensive line. I would go more with your side and go more defense. Like kind of lean into what Tomlin does. And I think what teams should do, double down on what you're good in the draft, right? We can draft receivers pretty well. Overall, we could draft defense pretty well. We can't build an offensive line through the draft, generally speaking. I mean, yeah, the 70s, maybe a little bit with Pouncey, but we had a lot of free agent guys. So my thinking is go buy what you're not good at, right? Go out and spend in free agency, which they did. Yeah, on paper, does it work? Probably. Not every free agent signing works. We know that. Maybe half of them at best do. Do you think the free agency pickups on the line work for the Steelers?
I think they do. I like Isaac Samalo. He's the prize horse.
Yeah.
He is just a road grader. And I think Kevin Dotson was probably the weak spot last year if you did have to identify somebody. So an immediate upgrade there. And if your guards are James Daniels and Samalo going into the season, I think that's upper echelon in the NFL, top 10 for sure. You may be talking top 5. And, the quarterback's best friend is his running game. So Najee Harris, we saw at the end of the year last year, was able to really find his stride. I think he got healthy finally. And Samalo is just going to help, open things up for Pickett as that running game continues to improve. I think Dan Moore and obviously Chuks Okorafor are still big questions. One of the biggest questions for me in this draft that I'm still curious to find out. Honestly, I think a lot of Steeler fans don't know the answer to this yet. Is how much they actually like Dan Moore.
I don't
I
think
have
it's a
no
lot.
idea.
I don't think they're a huge fan at all.
I don't either. But right, like they gave this dude
Yeah.
2 years, two opportunities
Yeah.
to start. They sure they might have made an offer to Orlando Brown Jr. In free agency, former Chiefs tackle,
How
signed
do
with
you
the
not?
Bengals,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
didn't. Right. But they didn't sign a tackle,
Yeah.
right? They put their money into there are plenty of guys out there they could have signed. They put their money into guard, they put their money into corner, some linebacker. So if he's that big of a hole, right? And you know it's 17, you're probably not going to get Paris Johnson Jr. You're probably not going to get maybe
Peter.
not even
Yeah.
Broderick Jones. Peter Skoronski's another guy. I think he's ultimately a guard, but
I agree.
going to be a really good player.
Yeah.
Um, I think we'll find out if they trade up, right, and make a move to get Paris or to get a Skoronski type player, or Broderick Jones, I should say, a tackle. We'll know they're ready to kick Dan Moore Jr. to the curb. I just don't. They don't really give up on 23-year-old starting left tackles.
Yeah.
It's just hopefully Kahn and Weidl take a different approach to what Colbert has done over the years. Maybe Colbert was too patient with guys for a long time, but I think that's maybe the biggest question for me. Will we find out that they like more than we think? It's a lot of mores. Or will he be immediately replaced at pick 17 or 32? I lean the latter, but I don't know that answer definitively, and I think we're going to be maybe stunned
Yeah.
to learn the answer.
We'll see. I'll spoil my number one pick, for upcoming draft here. I saw you put out a poll on your Twitter, and a lot of your fans thought C.J. Stroud should go number one over Bryce Young. I don't think you trade up for the second best talent. I just don't think if you're going to trade up to number one, you're getting the best, right? If I'm moving jobs, right, I'm going up. I'm not moving job. I'm not taking a lateral move or even a downgrade, right? I'm not moving up, giving up a 1B receiver. I wouldn't call him a 1A, 1B receiver in DJ Moore. You're going for the best. I think Bryce Young is clearly the best pick. I think he's the best quarterback in the draft. I think he's the best talent in the draft. What are your thoughts with the Panthers in the first pick?
Me too, Tim. First of all, I think Twitter probably misunderstood that to a degree.
Right.
I think it's tough to decipher the who would you take versus who do you think they're going to take
Right.
vibe, especially when it's like Bob Fart 23 who's commenting and liking things,
Right. You never know.
On Twitter. So
Yeah.
if it was a poll of just people in the know, I think that would be a little bit different.
Right.
Bryce Young is the best quarterback in this draft for me in a relatively weak quarterback class.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people maybe aren't sensing that because you might have four guys go in the top five.
Yeah.
But when you look at some past classes, I don't know how this one stacks up, especially when you have a guy who is 5'10", 190 pounds soaking wet like
Right.
Bryce Young, going to probably go first overall. But I'm with you, Tim. His off-script plays are phenomenal. What is the NFL, what are we seeing now in the NFL? Look at the two quarterbacks in the Super Bowl, Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts. Can do it with their feet, right? Not statues. I'm not saying C.J. Stroud is, but can do things off script, right?
Yeah.
I watched so many plays last year. If you turn on that Alabama versus Tennessee game, Bryce Young is, he's running around in the backfield for like 20 seconds, circling left, circling right, and then hitting a guy downfield for like 30 yards. He's really smart. He's calm, cool, and collected, had a lot of game-winning drives at Alabama, mature beyond his years, right? I've seen the comps, like people say Russell Wilson, Drew Brees. You're just comping him that because they're all short.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't think he fits into that box, to be honest with you. I think he has more, I think he has a little bit more, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a perfect, I'm making my point. There isn't one. He's Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Bryce Young.
If I was going to say anybody, I'd go Kyler, but I'd say he's a better thrower. He's a more accurate and more consistent thrower than Kyler, but Kyler's a little bit better of a runner. I think that's the
faster.
That's the best comp I could find. I don't know. Maybe it is because of the hype, but I don't know. I think that's close. OBJ to the Ravens seems desperate, kind of sending mixed signals, right? You're gonna tell Lamar that there's an availability problem with him late in seasons, but OBJ missed the season and has missed a lot of the last 3 to 4 seasons, and you're telling him that there's not enough money for a fully guaranteed, but you're going to go out and spend for a linebacker and a number 2 receiver. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense to me. What do you make of the move?
I think the word that I immediately posted on Twitter and the one that came to mind was weird.
Yeah, it is weird.
Weird. It's weird. This is a guy. DeAndre Hopkins is out there, Like if you want to make a splash, go get a DeAndre Hopkins. This is a dude who had 2 ACL surgeries in 3 years. He is in his early 30s, right? It's not like he's 25 years old coming off some injuries. He's also a bit of a clubhouse cancer. Like that's not breaking news. I don't have to, tell you that. This is a guy obviously who I think if they're not winning, right, a lot of games, if he's not catching 80 balls, I am already envisioning a helmet toss right into the stands, or him punching. Who was the player way back that like fell into the net?
That was him. That was him. That was OBJ.
Odell?
That was Odell. Yeah.
No way.
It was during that like that year or so stretch where he like scuffled with Josh Norman a couple times.
Yeah.
It was that same game. Yeah.
It was that same game.
I didn't even put that together until right now. That was literally Odell. Okay, so I could see a repeat of that happening. I just don't think it's going to end well. It makes me happy as a Steelers fan, and as somebody obviously that covers a team. I like seeing rivals, who can be a bit cocky in terms of their fan base, go down in flames. But
I agree.
Yeah, I think it's weird, man. I think they have a pick. I think they're 22 in the draft.
Yeah,
I would have used that resource on a Zay Flowers or Jordan Addison. Maybe trade up for Jackson Smith and Jigba. But you're right. I mean, now if they ignore receiver and say we got our guy OBJ, yeah, that's really derelict of duty. They should have taken a young receiver, and I don't know if you're Lamar Jackson, how are you thrilled, right? How is this your guy?
Yeah,
that's what I was
re-signing, right? Like it doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, like what kind of pitch is that? That hey, we're gonna bring you a number 1 receiver that's 31 years old, causes a bunch of drama almost every place he's been. Here you go.
A little brittle. Yeah, no, I agree.
You should come back.
Yeah,
it's weird. It's weird. It's freaking weird. I remember I asked some other folks to react. If you want to go check it out at Mic'd Up Sports 1, I said, toss me a word.
Yeah.
And there were so many good ones. I think you used the word earlier. I think I can't remember, like misguided or miscalculated or something like that. I had somebody say effing weird. I had somebody, so it was, strange.
Yeah,
strange.
No, I agree. Okay, finally, back to the Pittsburgh news. O'Neal Cruz, right? So the only problem I had with the catcher was him talking a little shit. Like, I have no problem with him. He already had the ball. He's a lot of people are like, oh, he's blocking the plate. You can block the plate all you want when you have the ball, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't have a problem with that. To be honest, O'Neal Cruz, that was an awful slide. It was late, and it wasn't very good.
It was a really late slide.
I'm not saying, he deserved to get hurt, but, like, we're trying to take, Sebi Zavala's head off. It's like, that's a baseball play, a bad slide. It is what it is. Like, is it unfortunate? Yeah. I don't know. What do you think of it?
Yeah, 2 things can be true. It can be a bad slide. It could also really be terribly unfortunate. And you know what? I don't completely blame Zavala. In the moment, you probably aren't immediately looking back and understanding that a guy is injured. It's knee-jerk, right? I think to get hit really hard in a home plate collision and be a little bit salty, considering that just never happens anymore in baseball because of the new rules, right? Where you can't be in the path. So listen, I don't want to absolve him completely from this. I think his reaction after the reaction was still poorly judged, right?
Yeah.
I think if you kind of go up to Carlos Santana and you say, my bad, man, like didn't know he was injured.
Yeah.
But you could see he still had a scowl on his face,
right,
looking to fight, So the initial reaction didn't piss me off as much as him continuing to kind of badger the Pirates whenever O'Neal Cruz is wreathing in pain. But it sucks. It kind of taken the wind out of the season a little bit for me, even though, and I'm not sure when people are listening to this, it sounds like they just got a walk-off win against the Houston Astros.
We love that.
Which is big. David Bednar blew the save. It was tied 4-4, and it sounds like G1 Bay walked it off in the 9th with a base hit. So whenever you're listening to this, there you go. You got a W. But
there we go.
It's very deflating. It's just sucky.
Yeah.
This is a Pirates team that's so much. I think they're just fun, more fun than they have been.
100%.
Doesn't mean they're going to win or be a wild card team or but they're exciting. And the biggest reason why they are, I don't want to say were, it's a little extreme, but we're going to be really exciting with O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think it's going to be a huge impact on winning. Like, I'm not saying he's not talented, but we got a bunch of talented young infielders. I don't think that's a huge issue. But yeah, the excitement factor and his development, the factor, right? It's not, oh, this year we're screwed totally, but it's like, well, I'll probably watch a little bit less, to be honest with you. Like, it's just a fact of the matter. I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, it's not like losing a starting quarterback in the NFL, right? It's not like losing Sidney Crosby. Baseball is a much different sport. One guy does not put a team on his back, unless you're Shohei Ohtani, I guess.
Even then, they still lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
I guess, yeah. Right. So, at the end of the day, yeah, can they still be competitive? I hope. I want them to linger around 500, so we might get a chance to see Cruz in the final couple months of the season. So
I hope for it.
But it puts a dent in that's for sure, man.
Yeah, I agree. Mike, well, you're an absolute pleasure. Always have some of the best Pittsburgh information and just some of the really good nuanced opinions, in the area that I've seen. So I really, really appreciate you stopping by, coming on. We'll have to get you on again, maybe after the draft, do a little draft review. But we appreciate you stopping by.
I got you guys. Always not a problem at all. Raise a Jolly Roger, Mock Draft 3.0, dropping relatively soon. There are going to be some changes, like I said. So check that out. And, you guys rock. Keep doing what you do.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Appreciate you.
You got it.
All right, there you have it. Mike Nicastro, everybody. We are going to stay on the MLB topic. We have up, down, sideways to do today. So we're going to go through MLB teams, players. We kind of look at it all as a whole here and just kind of give you where they're trending, whether they're up, whether they're down, or whether they're just kind of on a stable plateau, whether that be high or low.
Yeah.
So we got a list of like 7 different subjects here.
I got 7.
All right,
we did that last time though, and you're like, dude, we got like 6 more. I'm like, oh right, yeah, no, I definitely counted wrong. So.
No, yeah. All right, here we go.
Right. Okay.
Up, down, sideways, MLB edition.
Okay, hit me with it.
All right, first one up, we got the Tampa Bay Rays.
I love it because we're starting out easy. Up, they've started the season 11-0. It's the best start since the Brewers in like 87, I want to say. Look, it's one of those situations. It's almost like they're playing the A's Moneyball game, but they're doing it a lot better, right? Super cheap. They might even lose the team in Tampa because nobody really cares. Nobody goes to their games, which is baffling to me. Yet they still put a really nice team on the field. Brandon Lau, Wander Franco, Harold Ramirez, Isak Paredes. They got a really nice roster. And they've been able to let go of pieces and still be a really good roster. McClanahan has become a really nice starting pitcher. They can release G-Man Choi, goes to the Buccos, right? They trade him. They let go of Kevin Kiermaier, longtime Ray. They're just fine. So to win 11 straight like that after, an offseason where they lost a couple key pieces, and to have the young guys kind of step up like they have, that's an easy trend up for the Rays.
Absolutely. All right, let's go hometown team. We've talked about them a couple of times today. The Pittsburgh Pirates.
That's also an easy up, and now it's a different up than the Rays, right? The Rays
it's
were
up
already
from the basement.
Yeah, the Rays were already a perennial playoff team, right? They were already competing for the division, if not winning it the last 5 years, But for the Buccos, they've been really bad and really boring for the last 6, 7, 8, 9, even closer to 10 years.
Not really any excitement around them at all.
Yeah, none. They're exciting. They walk off the Astros. They sweep the Red Sox in Fenway. They take 2 of 3 in the first home series against the White Sox. Kutch is playing really well. The young guys are playing well. Ji-Wan Bae, Connor Joe. Unfortunate with O'Neal Cruz. We'll get to him, but the Pirates as a whole, the entire organization, the team, that's an easy trend up for me, even though they're only, 7-4? Not lighting the world on fire, but really competitive, really feisty, really entertaining. So
absolutely agree. Let's go to a team that has been dwindling a little bit here, the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah, you hit on it. Down. Yeah, I think they're trending down. And that's not just so far this year. That's the last 3 to 4 years. You lose Mookie Betts, you lose Xander Bogaerts, Christian Vasquez, your catcher.
It's been a tough road.
Chris Sale's been up and down with injuries, and it seems like he's not really back to Chris Sale form quite yet, if he will be at all. He's aging as well. And to be one of the richer teams in baseball and not be able to keep some of your stars, it's a little bit puzzling. Now, good news, they have Rafael Devers, who I think is a stud, and he's a top 5 hitter right now, pure hitter, full power. to all fields. But as a whole, they're trending down. I don't think they have the pitching. The bullpen's not there. So yeah, Red Sox down.
All right, team out west here. Let's go San Diego Padres.
To me, that's a sideways. They're still really competitive, and they're a good team. I think they'll figure it out. But with the amount of talent they have, the amount of money they've spent, I just feel like I'm always expecting more. Like I've been expecting
more for the last
better.
2 years.
Yeah, so it's not that they're bad. So they're not trending down. They're definitely sideways because they're competitive. They're gonna make the playoffs. They might even win a playoff series. But it just feels like I'm always expecting more. More runs, better pitching here. Like Juan Soto's good. Is he really as great as we thought he was? I think he is, but he's not showing it. I don't know.
The stars aren't delivering like they should be.
But the good news is they're just so talented. Even though they're not all playing fantastic, they're all playing well enough to still be a really nice, solid roster and a good, solid production level team. So Padres sideways.
All right, I got a player here.
Okay.
Javier Baez.
That's down. It's bad, man. It's bad. Have you seen?
It's starting to nosedive a lot.
There's a compilation of like some of his swings from the year. Go look at it on. I think I saw it on like TikTok or whatever. Look up Javier Baez swing compilation or even YouTube. Like he's not even like close. He's got that really violent leg kick, violent load, violent swing, right? And so if he's not perfectly timed up for the pitch he's expecting, usually the heater, sometimes an off-speed pitch. He's going to look bad, point blank, especially if he's expecting heater and he gets an off-speed pitch. I think he's hitting under 100 this year so far. Now, the defense is still there most of the time, but he can get kind of erratic defensively and get into funks. They paid a lot of money for him in Detroit, and it has not panned out. Baez is down.
All right, let's go New York Mets.
That's going to be a sideways for me as well because they've been playing pretty well, but Verlander's still on the IL. Trust me, I know he's on my fantasy team. Everybody cares so much about my fantasy team. It's like the 7th time I referenced it, but it's okay. Anyway, so he's not quite back yet. Scherzer's okay, but he's not looking Max Scherzer-esque, especially for what you're paying him. Frankie's been playing really well. Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso's numbers are pretty decent, but they lost a couple good pieces from last year, and you're not going to have your closer Edwin Diaz because he hurt his knee playing or celebrating in the World Baseball Classic. So are they playing pretty well? Yes. Is it tough to get excited when there's a clear, defined ceiling? I would say yes. So the Mets are sideways.
All right, last one here. Another player, O'Neal Cruz.
Yeah, so we get to this one, and here we are. O'Neal Cruz is down for me. Look, it does worry me that you're in year 2 now, and not only are you in year 2 of the bigs, you're in year what of playing baseball? 20? Realistically, since T-ball, like you're like. I guess he's pretty young, so maybe you're 18 of playing baseball.
Either way, you've been playing it for the majority of your life.
Like you can't slide. Like that was the worst slide I've ever seen.
Those are the little things.
Worst slide I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't understand it whatsoever.
It looked like he was super indecisive because he couldn't figure out if he wanted to stay standing or go into a slide, and it was some kind of weird slide. And if you go back and look at it, he was in a position where he could have possibly gotten under that slide too. If he would have slid around, kind of dragged the hand back across the bag,
right?
He was in a position where he could have done that. He could have
maybe
slid a little bit outside
slid
outside the base path and just reached back. But he did like some sort of weird, like try to truck the catcher, but also try to slide into his ankles.
It was not good.
I
don't like it. It's a bad look. And
it obviously
it resulted in a really unfortunate injury. He's out for what, like 3-4 months?
4 months, they said.
Like,
4 months
ridiculous.
Minimum. It's a minimum at 4 months.
That's terrible.
So what? That puts
We're looking at what, like
May,
July,
June, August.
Like that's just terrible. It's awful news for him. It's awful news for the team. But it could have been avoided, which is the very frustrating part about it. So
either way, that was up, down, sideways, guys. Just to kind of run back through, I guess.
Yeah,
we have the Tampa
it.
Bay Rays trending up, the Pittsburgh Pirates trending up, the Boston Red Sox trending down, Padres going sideways, Javier Baez going down, the New York Mets going sideways, and, of course, O'Neal Cruz trending down.
Down, unfortunately, yeah.
But that is all we have for you guys today. That is the show, so make sure you go check it out on all the different platforms. We have the separate videos posted on YouTube, so you can go check all those out. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to the YouTube.
Yeah,
follow on TikTok, Instagram. All those links are in the description of the episode wherever you are listening or watching. Guys, we appreciate it, and that was The Issue.